Amy, I love the name of your Zoom ID. Amy is awesome.
That's hilarious.
All right, let's see. We've got 5, 10. 15, 20, 25, 30. I say we have a quorum. So welcome everyone. This is Sue Hamill. I'm so excited that you are joining us on this very hot summer night. Hopefully you're in air conditioning. And Ryan is driving the deck. So tonight is our parish leadership meeting. We'll be here for the next hour or so. And then the members of the parish council and the executive committee will stick around for the parish council meeting immediately following. You can mute yourself if you are concerned about any background noise, and just unmute yourself when you're talking. And with that, Ryan, if you'll take us to the agenda. Okay, so welcome back. We'll be starting with a prayer, and then Ryan will walk us through parish life in the time of COVID updates. I've got a quick update on the bylaws development process. Eric will be providing an update from some of the great work that social justice has been doing. And then we have a guest speaker from Ryan Companies regarding the Ford plant development. And that will take up the majority of the time this evening. So with that, I'd like to invite everyone to join me in the opening prayer. It's up on the screen. It's the prayer for guidance. So in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, amen. Lord, guide me, teach me, strengthen me, till I become such a person as thou would have me be. Pure and gentle, truthful and high-minded, brave and able, courteous and generous, dutiful and useful. Amen. And so with that, Brian, if you would walk us through the updates in parish life. Thanks.
So kind of an update for everybody. I mean, for a while there, we were really just operating for funerals, baptisms, and weddings for the longest time. And we kind of dubbed that stage 1 or phase 1. We moved into the second stage of opening up the church for individual prayer, meetings with staff, and just generally opening the facility up. We're in the process right now, and on Tuesday, we'll be having a leadership meeting to talk about opening up for daily mass and Sunday worship as well. So hopefully, every single week we'll keep updating people. We've just been evaluating the situation week to week in terms of opening up for the broader community for masses, which I know is everybody's biggest concern. And you'll continue to get information from us week by week. And Tuesday, we'll have another step forward in terms of that and announce dates to when we're thinking for daily mass and weekend celebrations as well. One of the things that we've just been extremely cautious of is knowing that so many of our ministers would fall into that vulnerable category. It's really, how do we do ministry in a meaningful and impactful way that doesn't risk individuals as well, but really allows us to celebrate. One of the things along with that we've been noticing too is if you've been to some of the other churches that are open, the frustration on my end and a couple others is you feel like you're walking into a government building where you have to stand to the right, stand to the left, do this, don't do that. And it doesn't allow you enter into a prayerful experience of Mass. So when we do open up, whenever that date might be, we want to create an environment where the mystical experience of Mass is allowed to happen in a safe environment, and you don't feel like you're walking into a rigid experience where everybody's working about their health and anything else. And so that's really what we're trying to craft to do, to make sure that when we do this, we do it well, that's safe for all the participants that are coming to celebrate the Eucharist. And then on top of that, that it's a meaningful experience that doesn't feel cumbersome and regimented. So that's why we've been taking our time with this. But you'll see more communication come out with that next week. And I know we're starting to receive several phone calls, and I know people are anxious to get back in and celebrate. But we're trying to be cautious of it, and we're trying to make sure that when we do this, we do it well. So I thank you all for your patience. And from a financial standpoint too, thank you so much for all the generosity and the stewardship for keeping the parish going. I've been blown away by the generosity of the parish the last 3 months. Thank you for that continued support as we progress. And that is kind of it, Sue. I mean, we're transitioning and we'll keep communicating week to week here.
Thanks, Ryan.
Betcha.
I did want to just highlight the statement at the bottom that if you do have a need or a desire to talk with any member of the staff, they're available by appointment. So just call into the parish office. Are there any questions about what Ryan's just shared or what's coming up? Okay. So moving on to the next slide. And it's me. So I want to thank everyone who's helped us as a community to work through the update to the bylaws, and the entire process has been just really, really great. I wish I had a better word. It's been really great that everyone cares so passionately and is providing such a collaboration and input. And so I wanted to thank everybody, because I know that in big ways and small ways, in whatever ways that you contributed, you all contributed. So thank you for that. We've reviewed all the feedback, and we've even engaged the Archdiocese lawyer to confirm that the approach, the items that are at this point in the bylaws, things that have not been included in the bylaws, that everything aligns with what the Archdiocese expectations and guidelines are, and we are good to go. So the parish council later this evening will be reviewing all the feedback and the decisions and the updated version later this evening. So hopefully by the time we all see you next month, we'll have a positive update and steps forward. So just a quick note of thanks. I know that parish council members are going to be digging in a little bit, so unless there are any quick questions on that, I don't want to eat up too much time before Ryan Company starts talking. Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide. And Eric, can you bring us up to speed on some of this great work that social justice has been doing? Thanks.
Sure, thank you, Sue. Just wanted to bring to the whole body here tonight some of the discernment and discussion that has been happening surrounding racial justice, racism, and other related topics, especially since the tragic killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis. And the Social Justice Committee met in their regular meeting on June 3rd. And the majority of that time, all of that time, was spent devoted to looking at ways in which we, not just as a social justice committee or a social justice part of the parish, but ways in which we as the entire parish can respond in a faithful way moving forward. And what are the ways that we can do that? And those discussions continue. And that's why I think I wanted to bring it to the whole group, and that is the ongoing desire is to that the work of justice that we're doing in the parish is a parish-wide effort rather than just one committee of one council. And this is certainly something that deserves that raised awareness throughout the parish. And so you might have noticed that a statement was released, which was drafted by Father Paul, and was signed by the other members of the executive committee. That is now available for all parishioners to co-sign. If you go to the website, you can add your name to the statement about Mr. Floyd's death and about racism and racial inequality in general. And committee members are continuing to gather information about other ways that we can raise awareness, educate ourselves, but also to take action. And one of the ways that we're really encouraging folks to think about is to really be engaged in advocacy work. And what I mean by advocacy work is going to the Capitol and lobbying our state legislators on issues, especially issues related to Black Minnesotans and people of color, and addressing systematic change at the legislative level. But also, we are also in the midst of census year, and the Social Justice Committee Many members have been working really hard to engage more and more folks in the 2020 census, making sure that everyone is counted, especially everyone that is in the boundaries of our parish. And remember, the boundaries of Lumen Christi go beyond the 4-block radius of this building, which I'm standing in right now, but go all the way down to West 7th and include Sibley Manor and other areas of Highland Park. So we want to encourage folks to help us with those efforts. Also, there's an election coming up in November, and we'll want to make sure that as many people as possible are registered to vote and engaged in the process. Not from a partisan perspective, but a participation perspective. That's what I have.
Thank you, Eric. Let's pause for a moment, big stuff and important stuff, and I want to open up the call to any questions or comments from people who are participating in these meetings so far or want to get engaged. Everybody's on mute right now, so if you want to, if you have a question regarding this topic, you can unmute yourself. I'm sorry, somebody speaking?
Hi, how are you, Sue?
Hi.
I have a quick question. So I took a quick look at the Lumen Christi website and looked at the statement, and I mean, other than saying that our society is broken, what does this statement come in as to saying here or doing?
Joseph, I'm not exactly sure how to answer that, except to say that anytime people stand up and make a statement like racial injustice casts a shadow across the American landscape, we have to shine a light of truth and come together to do that. I think Father Paul wrote a really powerful letter here.
Oh, okay. That's fine. That's a reasonable answer.
Thank you. Hi, Jeff, I see your comment. You're asking where the statement will be published other than our own website. You know what? That's a really good question. I'm not sure. Ryan, is there any plan to release this beyond our website and in our bulletins?
I mean, it's more of an internal just to kind of unify the parish. And I don't mean to be cavalier with this, but in the grand scheme of things, the outside world doesn't really care so much about what Lumen Christi has to say on this topic. We're not a parish working in the inner city that's really dealing with this directly. What the statement's really meant there, it is to kind of unify the parish and say this is where we stand as a community going forward, and to start as a building block for ultimate cultural change. You know, this is really just the very bottom edge of what needs to be done. If we're really going to address this, what we need to address is cultural and systemic changes. This is just kind of the springboard to continue those steps forward. But otherwise, if we think that the statement itself is going to change anything, all we're doing is patting ourselves on the back and saying, good for us, look what we did. Really what it should be is a moment of engagement to look at us and say, you know, this is where we stand as a parish. Now, how do we start addressing it internally to change hearts, minds, and the culture? That's really what the statement's geared toward. It's not meant to be a, you know, look at us type thing. It's really just more of a unifying aspect for the parish. This is where we stand. This is where we need to go.
Right. And again, to once again get buy-in from everyone in the parish to say this is who we are and this is where we stand. And Father Paul opening that door with a statement on our behalf, I think is how I view it. And then that isn't the end of the conversation. It's not the only statement that is possible or that should be said, but it begins to open the door and hopefully provide a place for dialogue.
I found the statement to be really useful. We have this in our homily group. It served as a point of discussion, and I think it's really important for, even if it's just an internal document, it really helps move the discussion forward.
Thanks, Jackie. So there is a chat feature here on Zoom, and Jeff, I see that you are disagreeing and sharing with everybody that you are asking why make a statement if there isn't anyone to read it. So I'll turn it back to Ryan and Eric, but I will say that I think first and foremost, it's for all of us to read it and see where our parish leader is asking us to focus. And Mary, that's a really good question. How will members who do not have the internet, is this being published in the bulletin and or is it being sent to our parishioners?
Yep, it was published in the bulletin last week, Michaela, or this weekend or last weekend. And then we'll continue to show it going forward as well. So, I mean, you know, it's there for
That's a
people.
good point. Since no one's going into the church, they probably can't get the paper bulletins. So
We're mailing out the paper bulletin to those that don't have internet access. So we've been mailing out those that don't have access to the internet.
oh, that's great. Thanks. Good question, Mary. Thank you.
And then, you know, I think the other further point to Jeff's question is that we're not hiding it from the public. It's on our website. It's a public website. Our bulletins are public documents actually as well because they're online. And so I think we're open to looking at ways to disseminate it further. But I think the original intent of it was more, again, to get the conversation started that we're having right now.
So I think there's some good ideas about how to increase the visibility and the advocacy. So let me make a suggestion, because I know we want to leave enough time for the next topic. If you have any suggestions as to how we can amplify this message and be even stronger advocates and partners to everyone, please send an email to myself. If you all have my email because I sent you the materials yesterday, so you can send it to me, or you can send it over to Eric. Is it okay? I'm volunteering you without any notice, but I'm hoping I'm seeing you nod. You can send it to Eric, and his email is on the website, the Lumen Christi website. So send us your ideas. Let's figure out how to amplify it further. I'm glad that that it's been useful to so many people, and that we're able to come together in such a unifying, supportive message. Any other questions before we move on? All right, Ryan, I'm going to let you introduce our guest speaker.
Sure. So I wanted to give thanks to Tony Barranco with Ryan Companies. Tony's one of the senior vice presidents of real estate development over there. And Tony is, Ann Maley put us in contact, or Amy Murphy put us in contact as well. So thank you to Amy for that. And really just kind of wanted to invite Tony because obviously it's one of the big question marks out there as to what's going to happen with the Ford site. So figured for future planning, who are our new neighbors going to be? What's the new development going to be like? I know it's some time off, but wanted to invite Tony here to share some perspective as to what Ryan Companies is anticipating. And Tony, if there's any other intros that I need, my apologies, but otherwise I'll pass it over to you.
Can everyone hear me okay? And if I can see the group real quick, this is the one interactive moment that I can produce on Zoom because of the mute feature. How many people, I noticed Jackie, and I think we've met a few times. How are you? I don't know if I've met others by face, but how many people have been able to join us for previous neighborhood meetings over the course of the last couple of years? If you have, just do this. Okay, so there's a few, but a lot of new folks. So that's helpful for me because this is really intended to support the parish and some of the future planning and decisions. And I'm sorry that the previous efforts to get this meeting had taken a little while, but I could tell you it wasn't for lack of trying on our behalf. So on behalf of Ryan Companies, we're really excited to become a big neighbor and bring a lot of new neighbors to your area. I was joined briefly, but she had to drop off because we've got a Highland District Council meeting tonight. But Maureen Michalski is a contact of mine. She is also on Ryan's development team and a McAllister grad. She we'll be doing a lot of outreach as well. And so you will see both myself and Maureen from time to time over the course of the next decade as this project comes to fruition. So I'm going to share my screen, and a couple things. I think I'll give just a high-level overview of the project. I'm going to try to be quicker than normal so I can save ample time for questions. And I did want to point out our website, which is a good resource for everyone in terms of dates and times. And I shared the core presentation, one of two that I'll share tonight, with Ryan. And so Ryan has a link to that. And I'd encourage you to share that both with this leadership group and with the rest of the parish. It's a public document, so we're happy to do that. So without further ado, I'm going to try to steal this screen here. And I'm going to jump into this document. Can everyone see this okay? So I'm going to actually go, I'm going to go up in this document a page. I'm try to view full screen too. So I want to just start with a little background on myself. I am a Milwaukee native, went to a small Catholic grade school on the west side of Milwaukee, and I moved to the Twin Cities in 1992 to go through the University of Minnesota. And my entrepreneurial career started with these two gentlemen at the corner of Snelling and Grand and St. Paul. I opened a little juice shop with these two guys called the Crazy Carrot Juice Bar. And I don't know if you've ever been to one, but this is me circa, well, this would have been 1998. And we built a little store there, and it was a great place to start a small business. I also was able to work with the Union Park neighbors to develop this project called the Vintage on Selby, which is a Whole Foods anchored project with apartments on top. And this is very similar to some of the projects that we'll be working on Ford. So this was a really good test case for many of the projects we're going to be bringing forward. So the site itself, obviously, you guys are located right here in this area of the site, but it's a beautiful site, equidistant from both downtowns, near the airport and near the Mississippi. And we wanted to pay close attention to our natural environment, including a lot of green space as you go to the south of the site. And from a development perspective, it's very, very unique to find a large urban site like this that is around a fully developed community. Finding a couple acres is hard. Finding 122 acres is really a unique opportunity. And we're embracing it. So our plan has always been to follow the tenets of the city's master plan, and that's what we're bringing forward in our project that's now getting underway. I don't know how many of you take a look at the Highland Villager, but this cartoon came out in July of 2018 when we were first awarded the rights, and it just epitomized the process that we were undertaking. And I don't know if Ryan, we wanted to be depicted as kind of a middle-aged smoking mechanic, but that's kind of what we were depicted as. But looking at trying to incorporate a plan with a lot of aspirations, affordable housing and offices and jobs and retail and apartments and ball fields. It really was trying to get us to think about how the heck can we put this together and make everyone happy. So I wanted to share it because I thought it unique. So I won't go through the outreach summary, but we spent a lot of time gathering feedback from neighbors throughout the process. And throughout what equated to about a 6-month process, we gathered literally thousands of data points and emails of feedback. This is after the city got through their master planning process. And really, this allowed us to take what was set forth in the master plan and then allow us to shape it a little bit with ways we thought we could improve it. And so here it is. I'm going to go through the master plan real quickly and then go through the status. This is really intended just to lay out what land use types are expected around. And then after that, I'll show you a little bit about timing and phasing of the execution of the project as it sits today. What is shown here is the city-approved master plan. This is what the city of St. Paul approved via the council in 2017. And you'll notice a series of colors. There's some light blue colors fading into dark blue and some purple and pink colors. I would note that each of these colors represents a different zoning district. And generally, the zoning plan was to create a new grid road system, as you see here, reconnecting the site to the surrounding grid area, and then introducing a series of development blocks, generally with density lower along Mississippi River Boulevard and higher toward higher toward the east part of the site. Looking at the city master plan, just kind of removing those zoning districts, and then I'll show you the Ryan plan. This is the Ryan plan. And not that we altered the zoning districts, we just tried to simplify this graphic to show that we really wanted to adhere to the tenets of the master plan. And there are really only three primary changes that we had between the city plan, which is this plan, and the Ryan plan, which is this three really quickly. So the first change that we made to the plan, you'll notice down here, can everyone see my cursor? Just wave if you can. Okay, good. This section down here of the site, we elected not to purchase this piece of property, which is still owned by CP Rail. CP Rail has a lot of railway, including the spur that goes down here. There's not much considering it's rail is the streetcar line. And the CP Rail was born to see what project will happen this before they decide to do anything different. Ryan also didn't note that Mr. Son from his employee room, did you let him in, or did you do that? No, you're right. You want time. Okay, I did it. So if you take a look at the southern portion of the site here, there's a pond feature that when looking at city plan, the pond feature previously involved both the city parcel and the parcel. We like to move that only onto land we own and control. The second big change we propose to make is in this top corner of the site. We've got a Civic Square and Civic Plaza. In the city plan, they proposed a larger Civic Square and a smaller plaza. We actually made the recommendation to invert that and make a smaller plaza, or a plaza and smaller square. The rationale for this was really, we just thought it would be more hospitable to have a large gathering area in the center of the site and not on your graphic plaza that they're on for it. And the last change that we proposed was actually the land use change along Cleveland here in preserving two ball fields. So the city's plan had making this development site, and our plan actually involved keeping the ball fields, and we just successfully last month donated those two fields to a Fence Highland Ball nonprofit. And so this would be as early perpetuity or until Highland Ball dissolves. And in the event Highland Ball dissolves, this land would revert to the city for parkland. So
could I ask a quick question?
Yep,
On the upper right-hand side, it looks as if the dotted line for your plan versus the city's is different as well.
yeah,
Could you walk us through that change as well?
very good question, Sue.
Thank
So
you.
the city plan did contemplate that what is currently the Highland Village Shopping Center parcel was also included in the master plan. And in our plan, we didn't control it. It's owned by a different ownership group. And so we just kind of left the base plan that's underneath it. Represent the land, we did not plan for it. And so I expect there to be some future plans that say it's not a land plan that will name the shopping center for some time. Thanks. So in terms of the metrics, I really kind of wanted to say, how does this way to? I've got a very simple here that shows, originally approved in the city that they had approved in 2017. The site had called for 4,000 units of residential housing. And what was employment, this is what we have both civic and like job-based employment of 450,000 square feet. And retail space amounting to 300,000. So this was allowed in zoning plan. The Ryan plan has proposed 3,800 units of housing, about 265,000 square feet of office and civic, and 150,000 square feet of retail. And I'll expand a little bit on each. The office space and employment space, certainly for us to come in under the allowable density was something we didn't take lightly, but we also didn't envision that this for a corporate campus. It was more suited for things like medical office or financial services or maybe realty or other things. It wasn't really the next area where a large employer would come and set up a large square footage of space. From a retail perspective, as you guys know, you already live in a very well amenitized retail zone with all of the active amenities that you have there. And while we certainly think we could add more square footage than 150,000 square feet, we think that we'd start adding retail that really wasn't contributing much to the community. So, you know, adding in things like a large liquor store or adding in you know, a large craft store or other thing may or may not be suitable versus a smaller shops and more mom and pop type shops or grocery, you know, those types of deals that so that's one analogy. The other thing that will help is one of the big things we found out for a lot of residents is traffic increasing within that node. And by reducing our proposed density on employment base and we said we were really able to reduce traffic reduction to the point where, really minimizing that traffic impact relative to a project of this size and scale. So that was important to us as well. Related to housing, we've got a breakdown here of the different housing types that are included in the project. And one of the biggest policy items that came through from the council and from Mayor Carter's office was the importance of including affordable housing across the board on the site. And so the plan has the most audacious plan for affordable housing of any master plan that we've seen, and we're excited about it. I have got to take one moment and show you guys something amazing now. This is not scripted, and so I hope that I don't get in trouble from Ryan for taking this field trip, but we have a turkey hen, and she has got a whole bunch of turkey babies. I'm going to try to find her. Oh, did she leave? Sorry, everybody. She's left. Okay, field trip is over, everyone. That's what you get when you have somebody come in when they've got nature all around. Okay, so this is the development plan as we've presented it. I'm going to go district by district just to show each. I'll try to breeze through this a little quickly, and then I want to get into some of the phasing plans, which I think are important. So going from, this is the eastern part of the site along Mississippi River Boulevard, and here's Ford Parkway, and then here's Cleveland here. Kind of going from the far east side of the site, from the west to the east. The first zoning district along Mississippi River Boulevard calls for 1 to 6 unit housing. And that housing we envision to be some larger homes like you'd see on the northern part of MRB, or maybe some unique duplexes or small condominium buildings that would fall into this red gap here. As you move to the east, this is one of the districts we're most excited about. This is a district of row homes. There's about 300 row homes that will be developed in this red zone area here. And these will be 3 to 4 story walk-ups. Here's a couple of precedent pictures that show what we think that they might look like. And there really isn't a lot of this product in the Twin Cities. And so we're very excited about it because we think that it will be appealing to younger families, empty nesters, those that may want to, that are new to the area, that want to live in an active urban node, and that may be used to these in Boston or in Chicago. We just don't have a lot of places like this in the Twin Cities that have them. So this district will be one of the most sought after. We think that the price points will be in the range of the mid to high 300,000s to the 500,000s for this. And for Highland Park, as you probably know, even finding a lot or a starter home, it's hard to do in that price point, and buying a new home for that is something we feel appealing. As you move further to the east in the site, now we're getting into more density. And in this zone, you could expect to see apartment buildings with maybe a coffee shop or a little bit of retail, but primarily residential on top. There's some images of what you see here, and we expect these to be generally in range from 5 to 6 stories in height throughout that whole district. Moving to the north, this is the F5 district, and what this will entail is either office or residential, but retail heavily on the base of these. So you'll see an active mixed-use building, much like you saw when at that Vintage on Selby project.
No, and I would put it on low or something. I wouldn't turn it off.
I'm sorry, Tom, could you mute yourself, please? Tom? Sorry, we can hear you. Thank you.
I had it at 68 and 9, and it was too cold.
The next district, the F6 district, this is where we would expect. We also would expect.
Tony, I'm sorry.
I got it. I was able to mute him, Sue.
Thank you.
We would be able to see supportive senior housing. We're planning to do some continuum of life opportunities here with assisted living and memory care, as well as independent living. And then we do expect to see office buildings. We are targeting a medical office building as one of our initial projects right up in this area along Ford Parkway. And on the southern part of the site, we think that this could be seniors housing. It could also be some either light assembly or office or something to potentially bring a job component back to the site. Some of the green spaces I'll highlight real quick. There is going to be a park, a city-owned park on the northwest corner of the site. This is called our Gateway Park. There is a full block city park. This is the neighborhood park, and we expect to see this to have a little bit more active recreation, like a basketball hoop, as well as picnic areas and other things. Really, the marquee public feature of the site is a combination between a city-owned park, which is this area on the southern part of the site, and an association-owned central water feature that is going to be incredibly dynamic and unique. The water feature has public right-of-way all around it, but the center portion is actually owned by an association, which will be members of the entire district. And this will be open to the public as if it were a public park. On the corner of Cretin here and Ford Parkway, you can see our Civic Square. This will be a really nice entry point to the whole of the development, really signifying where the development begins. And this is the Civic Plaza area. It's hard to tell because of how small this looks, but the size of the Civic Plaza is about as big as Mears Park in downtown St. Paul, to give you a frame of reference. And connecting that Civic Square and Civic Plaza, we are going to do a retail promenade with retail on both sides. We want to do these string-lit lights in between and make this really an active, inviting corridor to bring you into the development project. And then obviously we're excited to keep the 2 Little League fields that are still existing today, and hopeful that the young boys and girls can get out with activities yet this summer. So with that, I was going to go into a little bit of the timing and the sequencing. So bear with me while I switch over. Ryan or Sue, I don't know if I've seen any hands raised, but can you check while I'm looking and make sure?
Tony, I don't see any comments aside from a thank you from Olivia. Thank you for saving the fields, Highland Baseball Mom here. If anyone else has questions, you can use the chat feature and we'll bring them forward. Thanks.
If you guys want to send me a chat and I'll bring them up.
Thanks, Ryan. So first I'd like to just point out generally this website here. So if you take a look at fordsitestpaul.com, this is a resource that is available for anyone now. We are putting everything from project pictures to schedules to renderings and other information on here. And I think it's a great resource. If you take a look at some of these items, for those that want to sign up for information about our residential or our commercial, you can do so by clicking one of these links. It'll take you to a real quick survey and then you can get information. The renderings are a great resource to look at some of the project areas. Kind of going down to the renderings, here are some of the different features of the site. But the area I wanted to spend the most time on is under construction updates. And if you take a look in this section, this has a lot of current information, and in particular about things like our schedule of activities. And so for those wondering what's going on and what's the time frame, here's a pretty good indication of the things that are happening and the schedule that you see here. And really you see that we are involved right now in deep utility work and mass grading. And we are actually getting ready to start the parks and the open space within the next 30 days or so. And by the fall, you'll start to see roads take shape and you'll start to see other things happening on the site. One of the other areas down here, we've got a series of presentations down that you see on the bottom. We will keep adding new presentations that we have to this list. And then also at the Highland District Council, every presentation that we've made to date is also included on the HDC website. And so all of this information is already public if you'd want to take a look at it. But I'd refer you to there. While we won't cover it tonight, these Park Advisory Committee meeting minutes are really cool, and it shows you a little bit about the progress made on the design of the parks. And so again, while I won't go through it tonight, I would absolutely spend a minute clicking on these. And there are even areas to advocate along with committee members if there's certain programming you're interested in with the parks. They would be a good resource for you to make your voice be known about anything from if you want picnic tables, or if you want community gardens, or if you want pickleball, all of those things would be available there. But I do want to spend a minute on the logistics in and around the site, so that you're aware of a few key points in particular about what's happening when.
Tony,
yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Before you move on to logistics, which I know everyone's interested in, I'm glad that you have it available here, and that also is in a link that we can send to everybody. There are a few questions about what you've just covered that I'd love to bring forward.
Let's do it.
So speaking on behalf of everyone, but follow up question. One question, what's the tallest building height on the site? And point of reference, like what does that mean compared to current Highland buildings?
Sure. So the site allows for, in the primary zoning districts along Ford Parkway and along the interiors. Actually, go back. Can everyone see this, or am I still in the construction update?
You're in the construction update.
Okay.
Go back when you just had it.
There you go.
Okay, so in this zoning district here, this zoning district currently allows for buildings up to 75 feet. There are opportunities with setbacks to actually go up to 100 feet in certain zoning districts. What you're going to see quite a bit of is buildings that are 60 to 75 feet.
How many floors is that?
That's typically 5 or 6 stories. And so if you see a building that looks like this is a 6-story building right here.
Okay.
And this is about a 6-story building here. And I would expect to see, this is a 5-story building here. I would expect to see buildings of that scale in much of this district here and in this district here. I think they'll be a little bit shorter on this site here and here. And then the building heights in this district here will be about 40 feet. This is a pretty good example of what these heights will be. So about a 3-story or maybe a 3-story with a walkout home. So
okay.
Long-winded answer, about 75 feet is the allowable based on most of the zoning, and that's what you should expect to see.
So there are quite a few questions about the affordability of the housing. So wondering what is the dollar range for affordable housing? What section would that be in? And then will the senior housing also be affordable or subsidized? And is there an overlap of those categories?
Sure. So there are going to be a lot of housing types on the site. There will be, single family homes along the far west edge.
I think the question's more about the affordable housing that you mentioned. It was 780.
Yeah. So there will be at least 20% of the homes in the project are going to be developed at affordable levels. Of the 760, half of those, 380, are going to be developed at 30% AMI, which is the deepest level of affordability. So that would be the maximum income you could make to be able to have.
I'm not sure everyone knows what AMI is. I'm sorry.
Sure. Yeah, I'll take you through. So when most of the affordable housing projects are restricted to renters that make a certain amount of money. So said another way, if you make too much money, you wouldn't be eligible to rent in one of those projects because they're really set aside for those earners at a lower scale. The scale that is used to determine that is a term called AMI, which stands for Area Median Income. And the type of affordability is judged on a percentage of that area median income. The AMI, which is set by the city and the Met Council, changes a little bit year to year, but the AMI, I believe right now in St. Paul is around $56,000. So don't quote me on that exact, but for a round number, that's close. And so
Are there
if
going to
you
be
are
homes or apartments?
all of the above,
Okay.
there will be senior affordable, there will be family affordable, there will be workforce housing, which will be primarily one bedrooms. There will be affordable for ownership that we're doing with Habitat for Humanity. There literally is, if you name a spectrum of housing, it is going to be included within the project. Market rate apartments, which will be at a more standard rate. There'll be condominiums for sale. There'll be row homes for sale. And then the senior care, the market rate care service housing is all the way up to the full continuum of care like memory care, which is quite an investment. So it's everywhere on the spectrum.
Thank you. Thanks. There's also a question when you mentioned the homeowner association managing the center section, and I've got a couple questions about fees related to that. Is everyone who lives in this area going to be contributing to a fee association, like a suburb?
So everyone within the district, which is this jotted line here, will have some responsibility to pay for the operation of these public spaces. So it's part of the redevelopment agreement with the city. That doesn't extend to any neighbors off of the property, but literally all of the blocks within the Ford site, except for the baseball fields, will pay a small portion of the operating cost of these spaces. Now, the redevelopment agreement was written with the affordable housing providers in mind as well. And this association is very limited by the scope of work that they can perform. They are not able to do things like hire staff or run a farmer's market or other things because of the affordability concerns. And so the only thing that association can do is manage privately owned public spaces.
Great. I think that brings us up to date on the questions, Tony. Thank you. If you want to move on to the logistics stuff, thanks.
I'll go back into logistics and
Appreciate
see
it.
if we can get there. So I will skip through a few of these here. This is introducing some of the project team. So in and around the site, you're going to see some changes which have already started, but we're going to be keeping a perimeter fence up. We're actually going to be doing some branding and trying to beautify it a little bit here in the next month or so. And you will start to see truck traffic increase as we get moving in through the summer. You probably have seen this already. Some activities that we've been doing to date, in order to preserve some of the material on site, we've actually been crushing and stockpiling material. The good news for this is a lot of the concrete that was on site can actually be reused in road base. And that means we don't have to haul it off and then haul it back in. So it saves truck trips and frankly is just better for the environment to crush and reuse it. So these portions of the site in red have gone through that process already. And you'll see some large piles out there right now. So you may have seen this, but we've got a couple of big piles like this that will be on site, sorted by material. Those will stay for the next year or so and will gradually be worked down as we build the road bases. A couple of things, we're going to try to keep normal working hours. I think you can expect to see similar noise to the Ford activities, primarily with diesel trucks coming and going. And our hope is that we don't have a lot of rain, because the rain does extend the schedule and avoid a Saturday work for us, which nobody likes, us included. A couple things about the logistics of the site. The first order of business for us, is in utilities, but I'm going to use this utility map to show the road system that will go in place first. And Actually, I'm going to advance to this one. So this is a better depiction of the road system of what the site will look like upon completion. And between now and late fall of 2021, we intend to build the following road sections. We're going to build Montreal from Cleveland here all the way through the site connecting to Mississippi River Boulevard. That will be an auto road. We will be building Creton's extension from Fort Parkway all the way down to Montreal. We will be building Mount Curve from Fort Parkway all the way down to Montreal. And then we will be building this stretch of Boland, which is a new stretch of Boland from Creton all the way to. And that grid road system is going to be all open at around the same time. And so we'll be going from not having a lot of activity through the site to literally removing the fence from the perimeter and then moving that fence to interior blocks so people can actually start traversing through the site between now and, say, November of next year. So it'll be a big change. This is a pretty good graphic then that shows what will start emerging from vertical developments. And there's this central stormwater feature is also the utility for the site that takes stormwater from all of this area and actually channels it in. It gets treated before it goes into a pond. That pond will be an active amenity on the site. And then it will eventually outflow through this channel into Hidden Falls. And we're working closely with the City of St. Paul and the Capital Region Watershed about how to improve water quality, to really recharge the falls, and also to make this just a world-class amenity space. This area up here, you can see a pretty good graphic. This is from the south area looking to the north. But you'll see on each side of that, we have a 20-foot bike and ped only path. And then some areas in and around where you'll be able to go down and interact with the water feature. And on this side, you'll see a parallel path. And this will lead all the way up to that retail mixed use district to the north. And then to the south, falling off the page, is really a park area. This is a pretty good picture on the bottom right-hand corner that shows a view down Creton and really through the Civic Square and into the plaza. That's the image that you're getting right here. And we anticipate that both sides of this area, sorry, it's kind of low on the page. Both sides of this area will be an active retail area, restaurants and coffees and cafes. One day we will get back there, I promise. And it'll be a great entrance point into the project. So these, this is kind of how the project will emerge. What you see here is projects that go from under construction, which is in that, the under construction projects are in the beige. The orange represent the year that they will open. And then the gray represent projects that we expect to be completed already by that year. So kind of weeding through, and I don't know how well this video will play on here.
Tony,
So
I think we may want to encourage people to check out this website and the video because we are running out of time. But there is another question. What planned construction or modification to roads outside of that space should we expect?
Great question.
I think you're about to get to that exactly. So thank you.
That's a great question. So you should expect to see a couple of improvements to utilities in Mississippi River Boulevard. There will be some temporary closures in some section along MRB because we actually have to put a 40-foot sewer drop shaft in. That will come sometime this summer. And so that'll be coming. And then most of the intersections along Fort Parkway and all of the area to the south of Fort Parkway will be rebuilt. New sidewalks, new curbs, new landscaping.
Tony, I think we've lost the screen.
Pardon?
I think we've lost the screen. We're back at your landing, please.
Is it there? Can you see it? I'll verbalize it. So along Fort Parkway, really that entire stretch of Fort Parkway, all of the southern edge along the property line will actually be rebuilt with new sidewalks, landscaping, and new curb gutter.
I don't know, traffic lights set on a curve or?
Yeah, the traffic lights at Mount Irv will be rebuilt as part of the plan. And there will be a new signal built along Cretin and Fort Parkway as well. And all of those intersections will be reworked likely next summer and fall as development prepares to open on the site.
Okay. I'm gonna pause for just a second. We are at the top of the hour, but I think that there might be some pent up demand to ask Tony questions. So Tony, with your permission, I'd like to open up. Somebody just asked any thought on traffic circles. Will those be implemented anywhere? Is there anyone else who'd like to hop in with questions as well?
Yeah, I'll jump in on traffic circles. No plans for a traffic circle within the body of the site. The only place where we intend to have signalized control would be along Fort Parkway. And the city and Ramsey County did study them, but did not recommend them based on the existing right-of-way in that urban node. And Fort Parkway is a county road for those of you that may not know that.
Good to know. Any other questions?
So Tony, God willing, it doesn't rain for the next 2 years, which we'll all be sad about and crops will die. But if it doesn't rain for 2 years, when would you expect the first tenants to move in?
It's possible that we could get a couple brave row home owners to move in at the end of 2021. I think that would only be a few. I think that in the spring of 2022, it'll start looking like something. And really 2 years from now, a few of the initial buildings will be coming online and opening, and the public spaces will open, and it will really start to feel like something. And so I think you could welcome residents then. The other thing I'd say, I know you're doing planning for your congregation. The affordable projects are going to be developed over 15 years. And the balance of the development is going to be developed really over about 12. And so there shouldn't be an overwhelming immediate growth of people in the neighborhood immediately. It's going to be a gradual transition. And I really kind of just loosely expect a few hundred a year every year for about a decade. And, if you kind of think about that in your planning, I think that's appropriate, and that's how long it will take. And it'll take the longest to do those last few affordable projects.
Gotcha. Thanks.
What other questions do we have for Tony?
Tony, it's Brian. I posted this as a chat question. How will the profile, if you think about the profile of the residents and the mix of your housing you're designing, how do you think it will look different than what we already have in the surrounding area around our parish, basically? Is it going to look different? More seniors, fewer, more families, fewer? What's your sense in terms of the unit count and those sorts of things?
Yeah, this is going to be anecdotal more so than scientific. Highland Park has a really wide range of different residents. There are obviously some very, expensive homes, expensive single family homes, and there are even some kind of naturally occurring affordable housing properties, right along Fort Parkway. So I think that there are many folks that already resemble those in the community will gravitate toward Ford. And I think it will be a mix. I think that a lot of empty nesters that want to stay in Highland Park will have a number of choices. They can move into a condo or a row home or an apartment or even into senior living. So I think maybe there's some more sales of single family homes, which allow more families to move into Highland Park. And I do think that serving a wide range of different affordable housing options will bring many folks that need to have that type of a project into the community. So I think that there will be a lot of people across all spectrums. And so I don't have anything more than I think people in the neighborhood that love it will stay because they've got options of places to go.
Thank you. I see that we've got a few people dropping off because we are at the top of the hour. I'm going to open up for one more question for Tony. And then if you have any follow-up questions, anything that occurs to you after you look at the PDF that Ryan and I are going to send. If anything occurs to you in the next few days, send us your questions and we'll get them to Tony and get an answer back to the entire group. But any last question?
Thank you all for
Tony,
giving me an
thank
opportunity.
you. Thank you for your patience and meeting with us this month instead of a few months ago. It's been kind of we haven't all seen each other. Oh, Julie, it looks like you're raising your hand. Do you have a question? No? Okay. Well, thank you all.
I will get a picture of the turkey hen and her chicks, assuming that's the name of what you call baby turkeys, and I'm sending it to Ryan.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Thank
you
all.
for all your time. And I'd like to invite the rest of the ministry councils and parish councils. Oh, clapping. Very good. Thank you, Tony. Let us join together in a closing prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, the Holy Spirit, amen. O Christ Jesus, when all is darkness and we feel our weakness and helplessness, give us the sense of presence, your love and your strength. Help us to have perfect trust in your protecting love and strengthening power, so that nothing may frighten or worry us. For living close to you, we shall see your hand, your purpose, your will through all things. Amen. And so with that, I thank you all. I invite the members of the parish council to hang with us. Amen. Thank you, Peggy. We're gonna take maybe a 3-minute break and then we will start up again. But thank you all. God bless you. Take care of yourselves. Thank you.